Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. Our campaign is Beyond the Mountains of Madness, and this is episode 18. It was written by Janice Hill and Charles Engen, along with others who are listed in the credits. Our GM for this campaign is Sean Little, and Mick Swan will be giving the recap. All right, let's see where this goes. The players are ready. Let's begin our journey into the darkness. Mick?
Thank you, Tom. Our excavation of the Lake Expedition's aircraft hangars revealed yet more bloodshed. I think we all knew it would. Frozen blood and viscera indicated that men and dogs had been butchered en masse, with the former thawed and removed, presumably by Dyer and his team, and the dogs once again dismantled in that same obscenely clinical manner. While we worked, we discussed the nature of these creatures, whose remains we discovered in the snow. Speculation and conjecture ran riot as we tried to weave the facts together into some kind of coherent picture, impelled somewhat by the knowledge that Professor Moore had, that morning, acquired from the German expedition a document purported to be the account of the Dyer party. From whence the Germans procured this report, we knew not, but there was a palpable air of excitement in the air, tempered somewhat, it must be said, by a certain anxiety with regard to its content. This speculation was brought to a sudden halt when Brixton, the pilot, discovered a queer homemade radio set amidst the detritus. It appears to have been assembled from a collection of bizarre and disparate components, and its presence causes noticeable alarm amongst the dogs, leading to the suggestion that it might perhaps still be functioning. This in turn was interrupted by the arrival of Professor Moore, clutching a packet I presumed to be the Dyer account. He called away Hawkes and Lindenbrook, leaving the rest of us to work to our work. Until sometime later, the two doctors sent for me in turn. We came to this place for the noblest of reasons, for the pursuit of reason and knowledge. We sought to explore a blank on the map, to fill in the gaps. We have found instead horror, mania, and hints of dreadful, dark, forbidden things. Despite the fearful things we have encountered and the shocking half-whispered rumors and mythologies recounted about the camp, I was unprepared for the realness, the awful, shocking realness of it all. I have not read the manuscript. I can only repeat what Lindenbrook told me in that tent. It tells, he said, of Dyer's expedition onto a high plateau in the Miskatonic Range, upon which was discovered the remnants of a vast, impossibly ancient city, epochs old, buried deep in the ice. This was, claimed Dyer, the city of those elder things, built using the machinations of some manner of constructed amoebic slave species he referred to as shoggoths. It was those elder things, woken from their unfathomable slumber, that slaughtered the men and dogs of the Lake Expedition before returning to their ancient megalopolis atop the plateau, wherein they were slaughtered in turn by this awful, formless slave race of theirs. In light of these revelations, this horrible tale of death and mad creeping things from the dawn of time, I am expected to help plan an expedition. How can I do that? How does one plan for such a trip, a journey into the heart of a lunatic's nightmare? I lost too many men in the war, good brave boys who never went home, perishing in blood and shit in those wretched trenches. I cannot send men to their deaths again. I will not allow such a thing to happen. I think I've begun to sympathize with our saboteurs. They weren't trying to wreck our expedition, to humiliate us or strip us of renown. They were trying to save us. They were trying to stop us coming here. And despite their best efforts, here we stand at the foot of these mountains of madness.
Thank you, Mick. Excellent. So you've all spoken to Professor Moore, and he has given you notice that he's going to talk to some others and think about what you've proposed so far and get back to you later. He did say the next morning, but you know, with him, a lot of decisions are made a little faster than that. Well, you've returned to the, I would assume the food area, the food tent, to get a little bit of dinner for yourselves. A little more dinner, some coffee, or something to think and talk. And Charlene has come in, and she says, walks over to Dr. Lindenbrook, and says, "Could I have a word with you for a moment, please?"
Oh, sure. Private or right here?
She looks around and says, "Well, as long as no other people from the other expeditions move in here right now, I think that'd be fine."
Let's move over here.
Yeah, thank you. She says, "I've been talking to Ms. Lexington, and having been around Professor Moore and Mr. Starkweather as well, I think I'm not going to say we have much in common with her, but we don't have so many differences as we may think."
Is that so?
I do believe we should perhaps have a little conversation with her. You should. I mean, she was sort of just talking to me as a I don't know what she was talking to me as. I mean, we're certainly not equals in her mind, but she was just speaking off the cuff to me about a few things, and I do think that she was hoping that information would be relayed to you.
What sort of
she
things?
Certainly wouldn't. Reasonings for what we may perceive as being perhaps negative actions. Reasons why she's doing what she's doing. And I certainly, having heard the rumors, I do not think she is related to any of the sabotage that has occurred in our journeys.
Well, we seem to have found out that they had sabotage as well, and they lost a number of crew. We're highly suspect of the Germans, however, that they're involved. You say she wants to talk to me?
She inferred that.
All right. I'll see what I can.
And I know she's outside right now speaking to some of her people, but I think they're discussing something that's going on right now. So perhaps, if you have time, if you have the inclination, maybe just sort of break the ice, so to speak, and have a little conversation with her.
All right. Thanks. Thank you. How are you holding up?
Fine. I'm glad to have finally arrived at the camp. It's very exciting here. They left me to last, of course, because I'm a delicate woman. But
well, they don't know you the way I know you.
Well, I'm ready to pull my own weight to put in my share of the work. So hopefully whatever happens, I'm involved in it. I'm not just someone to take photographs of.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself a cup of coffee, and I'm just going to wander outside to get some fresh air and place myself in a position where she can see me. If she wants to talk to me, she can come over and talk.
All right.
I'm there with my mug.
Standing in the minus whatever
Yeah.
temperatures.
It's brisk. It's brisk outside.
The mug warms your hands sufficiently.
Yeah.
Well, she does see you, and she does finish a little bit of conversation she's having with a few of her people, and she wanders back, and she says, "Hello, how are things going on your side of the fence?"
They're going quite well, Miss Lexington. How are you doing?
Just great. I think we've got a lot coming up very shortly. That's going to be very interesting for all of us.
A lot of photo ops coming up for you. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Hopefully we get some better oxygen on our next flight.
Indeed.
Not too happy with what Mr. Starkweather provided us with. Although she doesn't say Mr. Starkweather, she just says Starkweather. That's how she refers to him.
You're referring to the gas that's almost toxic.
Well, the oxygen that they were provided for their flight of their aerial reconnaissance was tainted.
Yes. Perhaps it's something about Australia.
Most likely. Looking at the canisters, from what I see, whoever ordered them they were provided with most likely canisters of oxygen that were used for welding, perhaps, not necessarily breathing. So, yeah, the quality is not, it wasn't filtered sufficiently for our purposes, but we'll do what we can do.
I see. So what's next for you, Miss Lexington? What are you going to, where are you going to shove off to?
I think we should speak in a more private time, private location.
Well,
because you can see that there are members of German expedition within hearing distance, perhaps, if they really put their mind to it. And she says, I think we should speak either later on when they're on their night shift, when they're on their sleeping shift, perhaps. We'll have more privacy that way.
Okay.
I think we both want some privacy to have those discussions.
All right. Is there a time and a place you would like?
Well, they seem to finish their shift first thing in the morning, around 6 in the morning. Perhaps we should, or we could perhaps, I'll tell you what, she says, I think most of them are right down at the camp right now doing some excavations, as well as in the pit, the mine, so to speak.
Yes.
Perhaps if you could meet me over at the monument area in about 20 minutes, I can finish the conversations I have to have with my pilots. And
okay. All right. By the cairn, you mean?
Yes, the cairn. Yes.
All right. I will meet you there in 20 minutes.
Okay.
So I go back inside to get warm. Eat a couple more pancakes. Pancakes. And I sit back down with the people, with my companions. Well, that was strange. Miss Lexington wants to talk to me. We'll see what that's all about.
She's a tricky one.
I don't know. My cousin seems to think that we may be misjudging her, but I'm willing to give my cousin, who's a pretty astute individual, he's got a good sense of good sense of judgment towards people. We'll see. But it seems oddly covert. I'm not used to all this covertness being a scientist. I want full disclosure.
It would seem the better way to run an expedition.
Indeed. It would be nice to live in a world where we could all trust one another and all work together. But we'd probably be walking on the moon by now if we did that. Hell, we'd probably have colonized the moon.
Germans are probably going to do that before the decade ends. Well, the time passes, and 20 minutes goes by fairly quickly.
So I wander over there.
All right.
So I'm not really wandering. I'm just going straight there.
Are you just yourself?
Just myself, Miss Lexington, yes.
Okay. She says, well, what's on your mind? What concerns do you have, perhaps, with our interrelationships we have going on here?
Well, you can appreciate the concept of credit for discovery. My sole concern is scientific, and I'm not any kind of a credit hog, but in scientific circles, discoveries get labeled usually with the names of the discoverers, and I wouldn't mind my name going down in history at some point. It's very small compensation for an awful lot of boring work that I do.
Sensible, yes.
So I don't trust the Germans, because I think that they have wandered into our camp where we've made some rather hefty discoveries, and for all we know, they could be transmitting back to Germany that they have made these discoveries, and then there'll be a long-winded dispute back in the regular part of the world about who discovered what, and it all ends up in obscurity. That's what I'd rather not prevent. But quite honestly, I don't think that people would kill for that. I certainly wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have, and you'll find this very shocking, I have my own concerns with our German friends. And my concerns are that I am the one striking deals with them related to they assist me, I assist them. They certainly want to get on top of that plateau. And I've cut a deal. I'm going to, when the radios, I've actually arranged for some radios of theirs to arrive at my barrier camp. And when they do arrive, I plan to fly them and myself and my crew up and over to the plateau. We're going to do it. And that could happen as soon as tomorrow.
Well, I think that you should consider, please, that certain individuals should be allowed to go and others should not. You should pick, quite specifically, scientists.
Yes.
And not other such people that are on the crew.
That is my intention. It's my flight. It's my aircraft. So I'm certainly, I'm cutting a deal. I'm letting 3 of them come with me. I believe the number is 3. And, but I'll tell you right off the bat, I mean, my concerns are this. I have issues with, I'm very pragmatic. I have issues with this idea of monsters in weird cities. I'm skeptical of the whole entire notion of these elder ones that Mr. Professor Moore and others speak of. But the evidence is there. I mean, I see it. Situation is, the important part is that the Germans have told your Starkweather team, yourselves, Mr. Professor Moore and others, more than they've told me. They provided more information to you than they provided to me. It's been very businesslike between us. So I've known for a while that Dr. Meyer expected to find something big on the other side. I know this just from the way, some of the things he said, the way he's hinted, but there's no hint of what he's expected to see. And it makes me wonder, what else is the man hiding? This is just my concerns.
It's hard to tell what they know and what they don't know. They obviously had access to a manuscript that we didn't have any access to. And we don't even know if the manuscript handed to us is accurate. I mean, is it an absolute perfect, is it a handwritten manuscript or is it a faked handwritten manuscript? Those things we don't know. That's why we need to go see. It's not science until we verify it.
True. I'll tell you what. I've made my deal with Meyer and Ur, and I'm bound to stick with it. They're providing me, I'm providing with them, or for them. But I'll keep my eyes and ears open, especially once we're on the other side. If I learn anything about what the Germans are really up to, I'll let you know on the radio. I will. I will contact you directly and let you know by radio.
All right.
But that's about the best I can do, because I'm not dealing with Starkweather directly if I don't have to. We have
there seems to be a, if you don't mind me observing, there seems to be a long-standing tension between the two of you. Were you, forgive my asking, were you in a relationship before all of this at some point?
Our families have connections, had connections.
I see.
A quick trip to the library will tell you that there were things in the paper, there were things said by him, claims made by him, claims of saving my life when he didn't really save my life. There were accusations being made back and forth. I don't wish to discuss them, but there's certainly history.
I didn't mean to pry.
No. I understand that people wonder, but yes.
Well, thank you.
So yes,
thank you. I wish you a great deal of luck on your tour of discovery.
Thank you. Now, could you make a persuade or a bargain or something like that kind of roll?
Sure.
Right now.
And I'm going to tell the GM that my next destination is going to be Moore's Tent. So I got a 15.
In which one?
I'm sorry. What did you have me roll?
Persuade, bargain, credit rating.
Persuade. I got a 15, so I passed.
Okay. Well, she stands back, crosses her arms. She reaches out her hand to shake your hand. She says, okay, I think at least your group, the bunch of you, the private people, the people who've been brought into this, your group, she's referring, of course, to the party. Mm-hmm. I think you guys are serious, and I think you're a level-headed bunch. Keep an eye out for Starkweather, too, though. He certainly always has his own self at the top of the pile.
We are by nature scientists, which are by nature observers.
Yes.
So,
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Well, I'm sure we'll see each other in the morning. She shakes your hand again, and she toodles off to her tent.
Thank you. And I head towards Moore's tent.
All right. Anyone else doing anything over this period of time?
I'm getting the plane ready.
Okay.
Homer's outside trying to learn how to throw his boomerang that he picked up in Australia.
The atmospheric pressure is much too high for that. No, I have no clue.
At least it's easy to find.
I'm smoking a pipe while pretending to be inspecting my ropes again, but they don't really need it because I've already done it several times.
Okay.
I do offer my services if they want me along as a doctor, just to, in case anybody gets injured. But I know that there wasn't a lot of room, so.
Okay. All right. Okay, and so. All right, so nobody's. That's good. Okay, so you reach Moore's tent, and he's inside reading, as usual.
I've just had a very interesting conversation with Miss Lexington.
Oh, really?
She intends on flying the Germans up onto the plateau in her own planes tomorrow morning. She didn't give a time, but I thought maybe we should press forward if we want to get there first.
Well,
it's at your discretion.
I have been doing some thinking, and I did actually come to that decision that we would contact Mr. Starkweather tonight with the latest news. I won't tell him of the text of this document that we've been provided. Again, he's not one to believe in things. So I will contact him and I will see what he says, but I do believe that's my recommendation as well. So yes, 9 o'clock this evening, I'm going to do my evening radio conversation. I'm going to do it in private this time. So yeah, that's my decision now. Thank you very much for this. I'm not surprised that she's planning to do this. I kind of got an inclination because I'm watching them and they are working on their aircraft a little more than they need to right now.
Well, I will, per your instruction, prepare the gentleman, our gentleman, for immediate leaving, if that's what you so call. We'll get ready as quickly as possible.
Well, let's work that out. Let me talk to Mr. Starkweather, and then I'll brief you all, and we'll go from there.
All right. Okay. So, and then I go back to the tent where everybody else is.
Yep, and it's about 7 o'clock now, so you can all do as you wish, or discuss things, or.
And I inform them. I tell them that we need to be ready to go at a moment's notice because of this, and this, and this.
We talked about this in chat for a minute, but I wanted to kind of bring it out where we can discuss it real quick. Exactly what did Dr. Hawks and Dr. Lindenbrook reveal to the rest of us? Because, we all took our headphones off. They had the discussion. It's my understanding that they brought Captain Sugden into it. And what happened next?
As I recall, we brought Dr. Sugden in. We brought Captain Sugden in because he's a mountain climber. Right. And then we realized that we really needed the opinion of an archaeologist. So we brought you in, and then we brought the others in. So once you were all in, we more or less told you what we expected to find up there. Mm-hmm. We expected there to be this ancient city buried in the ice, up in the snow, up in a glacier, and that we were hoping to find it before anyone else does.
So, but you didn't mention to my character any of the names or any of the details of the manuscript. It was just kind of, because what I'm cueing in on is my character's occult knowledge, and if anything, if he sniffed anything unusual, I think he'd be kind of very scared about going up to where they're going, as opposed to you just kind of say, well, we think it's an old archaeological dig, and you just kind of soft sell the rest of it.
I think that I've been talking with you along the way about strange parallels that are in the Necronomicon,
Okay.
and so, I mean, we're talking elder things. We've seen them.
Yep.
And so I think that you would probably already have that concern. But I do think that we basically had a 200-page document. So you can read it if you want to. I thought that you took it to your...
I didn't, but I certainly will.
It's just something you can't read immediately. We gave you the gist of what it says.
Right.
And of course, we only kind of got the gist of what it says. We didn't read it so in depth that we, memorized it all. Because there's other stuff in there that we've kind of not touched on yet.
Okay. All right.
Implications.
Yeah, my character's a bit spooked. This is definitely, he's excited, but he's got a feeling of foreboding.
I'll tell you what, maybe it seems natural that who's got the manuscript? Do I have the manuscript?
Whichever one of you says you have it has it.
All right, let's say I have it. I'm going to discuss it with Gregory, because he's somebody who might understand some of the possible occult ramifications of it. So you said we could do what we want. Can we say that we're back in our tent?
You can do as you wish right now.
Okay, so we're sharing a tent.
Yeah.
So here's the manuscript. If you want to read through it, please do. There are some rather horrifying implications if you try to think of it with modern, what we would call modern theology or spirituality. Because this is basically saying that everything that we've ever believed as far as theology and stuff is just made up nonsense. And our origins are not so noble that you might think. I'll let you draw your own conclusions when you read this.
All right. Well, I'm going to put some fresh oil in the light, and I'm going to probably read for the rest of the evening. Because I assume we're going to get an early start. But our original plan, if I remember correctly, was to do an initial flyover. But I guess it sounds like our plans have been accelerated, and maybe we're going to go ahead and do a landing tomorrow.
Miss Lexington is planning on flying the Germans up there tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So it's become a race.
Well, I've talked to Moore about it. It's of course up to him, but I think that he'll probably get us up there before they get up there.
I think I mentioned a few days ago that this was going to turn into a race, and it sounds like I was a bit prescient about that.
Sometimes it's that way.
Be a shame if an oil plug came loose on their plane.
I was going to say we could send old Nigel over there to fiddle around with the German plane.
It's good to have a pilot.
Just don't if he decides to do that, I just hope he doesn't decide to make it so that it malfunctions when they're flying.
I don't think Nigel would do that. I think it'd be more of a thing where they literally just can't get off the ground. I would hope.
Well, that would be unethical. We can't do that. I can't do that. Some people can do that.
If they choose to.
I did not say this. I was not here.
But you didn't hear it from me. Yeah.
All right, so that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Evening continues. It's getting close to 9 o'clock. It is the time people have the opportunity to make radio calls if they wish. Does anybody wish to radio anyone?
Nope.
I'm going to once again radio my father, but I'm going to try to speak in kind of, well, let's see, what language can I speak in? I'm going to use ancient Greek, since we both fluently speak that, and explain to him what I think might be the situation, just so that he knows.
Okay.
I don't know. Ancient Greek may stand out, actually.
Possibly, but not to everybody. So I take precautions.
What is the situation like in the radio room? Do we have privacy?
It's a tent.
Yeah.
Generally, people respect your privacy in that they stand back. But depending on the connection you have, you may have to speak louder. You've got headphones on. No one can hear what you're listening to. But what you say, it all depends on the air, whether it's windy out, whether the connection's great, that kind of thing. Generally, people give you privacy.
No, Dad. Kine katarevusa.
Airplane.
I can't remember what airplane is in Greek. Damn it.
Ancient Greek. I'm willing to bet there's not one.
That's yeah. Well, I could still throw one. I think it's like Ariokineticus, something like that.
You come from the Greek.
I don't know that much Greek. I know a little Greek, but that's it. My character knows more Greek than I do. All right, folks, what next?
Should we take a nap in case we're going to get up early?
Sure.
Yeah, I get the feeling we're going to be up early.
Okay. All right.
Drain all the gas out of their tank so that it doesn't actually sabotage, but it does delay them a great deal. No. All right.
Well, Mr. Professor Moore is actually, he makes his radio call, and then he does come to find you.
Okay.
Because he said he was going to update you.
Yes, sir.
He says in confidence, he told Starkweather about the plans of Ms. Lexington and the BFE, the Germans. Did not tell him of the dire text, as he said he was not going to. And Starkweather has replied that he is ready to return immediately. However, for various reasons, it has to be in the morning. So the idea is that the aircraft are going to launch out and get him first thing in the morning after breakfast, hoping to reach him by noon. He will return, and at which time preparation will be made to move forward.
Oh, well, shit. Then we're not going to get there first.
No. Suggests everyone get some sleep so that you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, so to speak, in the morning.
Just take the plane and go.
No, we can't do that. But
He's not ready to be picked up.
I could go talk to Miss Lexington. See if she's willing to take a couple more people with her.
I think I would. I'm Professor Moore here. He says he thinks he would rather we have our own 2 aircraft. We know our aircraft. I'm going to shuffle our Nigel into one of our aircraft rather than hers. She has her own pilot now.
All right.
She can have that. That will actually minimize the number of Germans she can transport because now she'll have to use one of the German pilots.
Well, you are the man in charge of this expedition, therefore. Yes, sir. We will do what you say. So I go back and I tell everybody.
Let's get.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said he just says, well, let's get some sleep. We're going to have a very busy day tomorrow.
All right.
I will get some sleep. You do as you wish.
We'll get some sleep. So if anybody is still awake, I just go by and I tell them, I say, it looks like we're probably not going to get up there till tomorrow afternoon. at the earliest.
That gives me more time to read.
Is that just for the flyby, or?
I don't know. It's Miss Lexington is probably going to leave tomorrow morning sometime to get up there. Our planes are going to be busy going and getting Mr. Starkweather and his team, and then we're not going to be able to go until probably afternoon sometime. It is what it is, I suppose.
Well, she said she would keep in contact with you specifically via the radio if there was any issues or anything going on. So maybe it would behoove you to keep an ear out on the radio room to see if she reaches out to you during their trip in the morning.
I wouldn't put much stock in it. She's in it for herself.
Sparky will come and get me if she's calling for me.
True.
Any case, I'm going to get some sleep. I need some sleep. All this sunlight is driving me absolutely fucking crazy. Pardon my English.
I had no idea you were saying.
I'm a scientist who's living on the edge.
All right, so I assume everybody's doing the same?
Yeah.
All right. Could everybody make a very easy lesson roll?
Got it.
Pass.
97.
Pass.
I did not make mine.
I'm sound asleep.
I must be absorbed in the manuscript and not hearing anything.
You meditated yourself right into the deepest sleep ever.
Right.
With 97, I think I've got earplugs in.
Well, those who passed, I mean, if you failed and you're close to it, it's still good. But those who passed, definitely 3 o'clock in the morning, you look at your timepieces, you hear a rumbling noise outside,
Yep,
and
they're going.
2 engines, and it's the sound of 2 Junkers aircraft, 2 Junkers going off into the distance.
The Youngers can't make it up there.
Oh no, they're not going. They're you know right away, Nigel. They're not heading in the direction of the mountains. They're heading elsewhere.
Okay.
They're heading.
Going to pick up her radios.
So the Junkers have taken off, and shortly thereafter, those of you who've already heard this, you're already still awake because you're like, what the heck is going on there? Those who failed, you will wake up now. A wind starts to pick up, and within the space of maybe 15 minutes, it goes from the essentially dead calm weather you've been having to a rising gale.
Oh, Christ.
And your tents are shaking, your awnings are shaking, and you start to hear things outside rolling around out in the snow.
Greg, wake up.
Was this anticipated?
Storms can come up very fast here in the Antarctica. In fact, that's what destroyed this camp originally. So we thought.
They won't be taking off either.
Well, let's batten everything down. Make sure we're
Right. I'm going to make sure that the manuscript is well protected, and I'll put it in a foot locker or something like that to kind of make sure that it's protected.
So we make sure everything is tied up, secure, and
Well, it's quite a vicious storm. Those of you who have polar survival skills that you made, you took the training on the ship, you should make a roll.
no.
Nope.
Okay.
4. I'm fine.
A
I'm
4?
In my element. I've got a 4.
Oh, wait.
I'm in my element.
All
I
right.
did make it. I was looking at Arctic history.
If anything, I prefer it like this.
It's a brisk wind. You take your shirt off to get some
It's
work.
bracing. It's good for you.
Well, you
Stiffens the moustache.
Captain Sugden is rushing around, barking orders. Tie that down. Do this. Do that. And there's others with similar.
Yeah, I think the
training.
planes definitely need to be tied down.
Well, there's a number. Like it's not just that. It's kind of sloppy in this. Everyone's gotten kind of used to the fact that the weather's nice, and there are things like rock specimens and things just sitting out in the open on tables, like with loose leaf So everyone's rushing around trying to grab things and save it. And a couple tents fall down, so everyone has to rush around to help others get their tents back up again. Some equipment is blown away, like some people's clothing is off and blows away, and people have to chase it. It's nothing fatal. No injuries occur. It's just it takes a few hours. I mean, this is something that takes a few hours to go down again. Right. But because of this storm that is blowing, the plane actually, in the end, the big deal is that the Weddell is not able to leave to pick up James Starkweather until 10 o'clock in the morning. So the wind dies down. Everyone has a late breakfast. Things are cleaned up. Clothing is recovered from the middle of ice fields. So essentially, Professor Moore does come out and say, all right, everybody, we have to prepare for our forays over the mountains. He gathers you into a supply tent after. He says, thank you for helping out as best you could with the storm. I'm glad it's dying down now, but we're late getting Mr. Starkweather. Mr. Sykes is here to assist us with provisioning for the trip. So essentially, we need to start. We've got a list, and it's a manifest. And we have to start gathering things for the trip. So he prepares the list and hands it out to various persons within your party to get others to work together to get the planes loaded.
We got this down at this point. Hey, if we can't leave, they can't leave. So
true.
It makes an even.
It's a great equalizer.
Equalizer, yeah. So
well, you do see that there's people working on their aircraft, and they're Nigel can tell from a distance they're doing something regarding the oxygen that they had. They're flushing oxygen from the system, replacing the tanks with some new fittings to make the tanks work a little better, and then they put in some the Bear's Mouth Falcon oxygen tanks. They start bringing those in and replacing the ones with the ones they got from the Starkweather group. Lexington's pretty honest when she sees you, Dr. Lindenbrook. She says, well, we've made our deal. I've honored it. Now I'm making a new deal. We're flying over the mountains. The Germans need my help more than you guys do, and they're willing to help me in turn. This way I don't have to put up with Starkweather anymore. She goes, I'm best of luck. I hope everyone returns safely. But, yeah.
Wish the same to you.
Thank you. Dr. Meyer walks by, he nods his head. He goes, it's a very exciting day, very, very exciting times ahead of us. Nods at all the party as he's walking, looking at his notebook. He says, I apologize for any misunderstandings we may have had earlier. Lack of sleep and oxygen's getting people's nerves on edge, as you say. And you guys provided us with the fuel. This is good, and I'm very happy that we're able to do the things we want to do. And it's a wonderful opportunity for science. He smiles.
When this is all over, perhaps we'll all sit together at a table and have a beer.
More than one in a nice warm beer garden in Berlin. That would be excellent for all of us.
Oktoberfest.
Yes.
Bring your lederhosen.
I'm sure Professor Moore would agree with my statements. I know he's a man of science.
Bon voyage.
Now, Professor Moore has the radio up again, and he's you can see him walking over. He goes, waves over to the group. He goes, I need an update on what we're doing so far. I have to radio Mr. Starkweather. This is a few hours later.
Right. Well, I assume we've all eaten too.
Oh, you've eaten, yes. A hastily cooked breakfast occurred around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So,
well, I guess I'm going to go get him.
Well, he radios Starkweather. He says, come here, you can be here too. He tells him, he gets the exact location of him on the polar ice field, provides it to you, Nigel. He advises, while you're there, he advises Starkweather of the plan that he's heard now, all the details of Lexington's plan. Starkweather radios back as he puts it on speaker instead of headphones. He says, after all we've done for her, the ungrateful hussy never could trust her doctor. We all know it was up to her to put that fellow Henning up to his tricks. Does she think she can get ahead of Starkweather? Prepare the planes. Just continue preparing the planes. We'll get there first, by God, and tell the man to have nothing to do with those people. If we'll see if they can make do with the Huns. Meyer had better watch his back. Ward kind of nods, like mumbles, yes, of course. And he says, let's, thank you, radio's off, and he says, let's get everyone in the mess tent. So he brings all of the expedition to the mess tent. He explains that we've got 5 places open for the voyage. 6, perhaps. How many of you are there?
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are six places available. By chance, it's become 6.
More's not coming?
It's a Festivus miracle.
The plane carries
It's a
6.
Festivus. No, there's room. If you look at the, I provided you, it's 6 crew and passengers.
That's what I'm saying. There's 6 of us, and it carries 6, so we're good.
Well, we have 2 aircraft as well. So, so you split between the aircraft. You volunteer. He says, "Great, there's room." He'll split you between the aircraft. He says, "Captain Starkweather thinks, and I concur, that we should make our best plans without the help of Miss Lexington's group. After all, it has not been determined what happened to her radios and option supply in the ice shelf, or who, if anyone's responsible. I'm not saying it's her, or she's in charge. She is the reason for this, but perhaps someone in her group may be the issue at hand. So that's all. I think we want to separate from them. That's why I'm pulling you, Nigel, to fly our aircraft and not assist her. Like I said before, she can use one of the German pilots. I'd rather have you with us anyways."
So now our plan is to get up there now and not get start weather, or what?
No, we have to wait for Mr. Starkweather. He's on his way. You have to go get him. So if you could go get your aircraft ready, you've got it. Like the other fellows are working on it now, but we need to get him back as soon as possible. So if you could proceed with that mission, that would be excellent.
All right, I'm going to go play chauffeur.
How long will it? Isn't that what pilots are?
Generally.
How long is it to get to Starkweather from here?
9 hours.
Oh my God.
It's a long drive. If you leave now, it will probably be about 4 o'clock, maybe later, before you get to him.
Holy shit. That's gonna be tomorrow before.
So I think we're already looking at tomorrow morning, to be honest.
There are no. Yep, Nigel knows from his watching of the Germans and Acacia Lexington, they're not ready to leave yet. Things have blown everywhere. Mm-hmm. They're frantically trying to find things. There looks to be some issue with the engines. They are not in any position to leave yet either.
Right.
Okay.
How many planes are active right now that could make this flight? There's 3?
3.
You have 2.
We have 2, and she has 1.
She has the Bell. Well, the Bell is the name of it.
The Bell, okay. And the German planes have already taken off, so there's only those 3 planes, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. So one assumes things start to move quickly after lunch. Nigel's flying off to go get Mr. Starkweather. Halpern and Sykes and some of the technical staff are sorting equipment needed for the flight. All 3 camps are working on their own to get their things together. There's the survey of the cave, so Elmer's going to have to finish up that. He's been given some instructions on things that they want to have done before they leave. There's packing supplies for the voyage, preparing the aircraft for flight. But I need to know now what each of you are planning to take with you, because there's limited space and limited weight on the aircraft. So, other than your clothing, your basics, if there's anything above and beyond, essentially your clothing, what are you taking in general?
A nice, fresh, blank notebook. A pen to write in it.
Well, there's general things like
I assume that oxygen will be provided.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that.
Right. Bring your own oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it in a bag,
I think that we
tie it
should-
up tight.
Put it in one of them spangled Ziploc bags.
I think we should definitely be armed.
BYOA.
Oh, all I'm taking beyond, that is I've got my weapons on me.
Because if these things still exist, we might encounter them. That seems it still seems preposterous every time I say it, but we've seen too much now to not think that it's possible.
I'd rather have the gun and not have to fire it than not have the gun and have to fire it.
I don't know if I'm worried more about the barrel-shaped elder things or the gigantic shoggoth things.
Sean, I'm going to bring my big medical bag with my trauma kit in it. So,
Okay.
Is that the first time Elmer's heard the word shoggoth?
I believe so.
What is it? Because we kind of brought you into that conversation too,
That's right.
because you're the surveyor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Elmer heard Shoggoth and he said, "Bless you."
Oh yeah, shoggoth to you too.
We're already speaking German.
Is that Yiddish?
It's just a word for something. It's some sort of a. If we're to believe what the document says, then these elder things genetically engineered. We wouldn't even say genetically engineered. These things engineered slaves that were kind of like gigantic amoebas that could change shape and do the hard labor. Because obviously these barrel-shaped things, they weren't very good at manipulating things. Oh, they did cut up all the dogs and people.
How big are these shoggoths?
Well, it doesn't really say. The manuscript says the size of a bus.
That's big.
It's pretty damn big. If it's to be believed. The thing is that these gentlemen were at 28,000 feet. And that kind of oxygen deprivation can cause a great deal of hallucination. We might get up there and find that there's just some interesting rocks sticking up out of the ice, and they hallucinated the rest of it.
Well, speaking of oxygen deprivation, if we're flying up there, then our bodies aren't going to have an opportunity to adjust to the altitude. So that means that we have to rely on the oxygen. So if our oxygen supplies start running low for any reason, we have to come back immediately. And similarly, if anyone starts experiencing headaches, then we need to check their air supply. We need to make sure that everyone's safe. It doesn't take much to kill you in a high altitude environment like that.
Is mountain climbing similar to like scuba diving, where like if you go down quickly, you have to come back up slowly to kind of let the nitrogen in your blood, equalize out? Is it similar in mountain climbing, where if you go up too fast?
You're simply not getting enough oxygen.
Okay.
That's the bare bones of it. You just aren't getting enough oxygen. The air is too thin.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're giving yourself supplementary oxygen. You're not at any danger of getting nitrogen bubbles or anything.
It's not nitrogen narcosis, but it's just a lack of oxygen, and you could probably suck an entire tank dry and still not get enough.
That's it. You're heading towards anoxia.
Okay.
Would these be?
Captain said, is there anything else I should bring in my medical bag and stuff like that? Just you're the expert on this, but
sedatives might be handy.
Yeah, because that would slow down your respiration and slow down your need for oxygen.
Yep.
Okay.
If someone gets injured and they get panicky, they start using more oxygen.
Right. They'll start sucking. Yeah.
I'm sure a flask of whiskey wouldn't hurt it either, right?
It never hurts.
Whiskey never hurts. Yeah, there you go.
It does the opposite of hurting.
Makes everything feel all right.
The danger in alcohol in that altitude and the temperature outside is it thins your blood.
Yeah.
Could someone explain to me the oxygen? Are these like personal packs that we each have, or is there like one
Yes.
that we breathe from? Or
I have that information for you.
all right,
If someone asks,
The GM has information.
I have you just have to ask. Each aircraft has its own oxygen supply. So when you get over a certain altitude, somebody turns on the oxygen. The assumption is the windows are shut, the doors are shut, and it's a fairly tight seal. So you actually have oxygen as you're going up. When you get over a certain altitude, you have to have oxygen. Everybody is being provided with a pack and this little tube you have to hold in your mouth. It's not like a snorkel. It's actually irritating as hell. You have to breathe through this little tube. Really irritating. So it does.
Probably de rigueur for the time, though. Probably. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for the time, yeah. You've been trained on its usage. It's very difficult because there are some clips to hold it to you have to have your nose shut while you're using it. So you have to breathe through your mouth with your nose clip shut. These nose clips are metal, so you also have to take care not to be out in the driving wind with this metal thing stuck to your nose, or it'll be stuck to your nose permanently. All kinds of things are being taught to you. Sleeping in the high altitude, there's going to be oxygen in the tents. The tents will be sealed to the ground as well.
We froze.
You froze. You said that the tents will be sealed to the ground as well.
Oh, but I'm back now, right?
Yes, you are.
Oh, good. Sorry. The tents will be sealed to the ground with a tight flap, double flaps, so that you can actually be in the tents and sleep. Someone will stay awake to make sure that there's some canisters that actually remove some of the carbon dioxide from the air. So you do have protection. You do have individual oxygen, and there is enough oxygen for a reasonable stay on the plateau.
and that actually brings up a good point, because I'm curious, how long are we expected to be up there on this first trip?
The
How long
assumption is,
can we stay up there?
how long can you? That's something that hasn't been calculated yet. Professor Moore is working on that. He'll let you all know by the time Mr. Starkweather arrives.
Okay. This is kind of academic information, but to give you an example, if you are at sea level, there is about 20.9% oxygen in the air around you. If you go up to Everest, which is 29,000 feet, there's only 6.9% oxygen in the air. So you've gone from 20% down to 6%.
Wow.
Yeah. And when you get up to just 18,000 feet, there's only 10.5%, and that is the danger zone. That's where the danger zone starts. So we're doing 20,000 feet higher than the danger zone.
It is possible to acclimatize yourself to a low oxygen.
Slowly, yeah.
It must be
Right.
very, very slow.
In my travels in Tibet, I saw, the monks and others that perfectly fine. They, like Captain Sugden said, they acclimatized to it.
So, thank God for these things.
This is why the Sherpas are so indispensable on expeditions. It's because
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
low oxygen environment.
All right.
Well, I'm still reading the manuscript. I'm trying to keep my sanity, I guess.
Do we have any official guidelines for this expedition right now? Or is it just explore?
Be first.
Right now, it's explore. Right now, it is see if you can get over the mountains, see if this city actually exists, see what there is, perhaps fly around, perhaps land. It's all going to be played as you go, as Professor Moore says, because if you get up there and there's nothing there, it may be an aerial reconnaissance and return to base.
Sugden will tell you, probably most people know just from people who like to do mountain climbing, that glaciers are extremely dangerous. They're filled with cracks and crevasses that disguise themselves. You can be walking forward, and then there's only an inch or two of snow crossing the crack, and you fall and you're gone.
Captain Sugden, Professor Moore wants to know if he can have a word with you on your own, if that's possible.
Yes, of course, of course.
He takes you aside, away from everyone, though you guys can still hear. It's not a big deal. He says, one thing I'd like you, with your expertise, to do, and I don't want people to be frightened by this. I want you to assess the possibility of not only ascending through the pass we're calling the Dire Pass to this purported city in the plateau, but also could one return safely without the use of aircraft?
Well, as we've just discussed, and you'd need a supply of oxygen. Obviously, your oxygen needs reduce as you come down, but we'd have to come down quite a long way before that would happen. I mean, it's impossible to say without seeing the terrain, but assuming
that's what I want. Yes.
Assuming that there's that there physically exists a path by which we could come down, then yes, theoretically it's possible to come down. But if you're asking me whether it's going to be possible to bring down a group of men who have no formal experience of mountaineering without injury or accident, then that I honestly couldn't say.
Well, look during our flight.
With trained men.
Yeah. Well, look during our flight. I want to verify that it could be done or could not be done. I just want to know.
If there's a potential route, then I would say that, you know, by all means I would be happy to be the man who struck it. All I can do is give you an honest assessment.
Oh, that's all I ask for. If you could do that, that would be wonderful.
Very good, sir.
But please don't discuss it with the rest of the other persons in the group, other than your immediates. I don't want them to think that I'm planning for the worst, when in fact I am planning for the worst.
Very good.
Okay. All right. So you've got a list of things to do. You're wandering around. The aircraft are being loaded and assessed. Starkweather doesn't see there any need for changing the cargo list that was provided to you earlier. Moore has a better grasp of the situation, though, and he's a little more rational. So he says, if you think there's something we need to change in the load that I've provided you with, the list, just let me know. Keep in mind, anything that goes aboard.
If there's any possibility of increasing the oxygen, even by a few cylinders.
Mm-hmm. Well, look at the lists that have been provided to you. If there's anything you think we can remove or do without, then we could do that.
Can you remind me again which plane we're taking up?
Well, both the what are they called? The not the Waddington.
The
Weddell and the Enderby are the Starkweather Moore aircraft. Do you need me to put those on the screen at all, or?
I've got them. That's okay.
Oh, good.
I'm sorry. The Weddell and the
Weddell, Weddell, and the Enderby, Enderby.
Is it possible we can bring one of those ice knives with us?
Well, they weigh about 3 pounds.
They could be essential, though.
Could be.
For cutting into.
The problem is you also need a source of power for them.
Oh, right. They need a generator. I forgot about that.
They're electrical.
Jeez.
Never mind.
I bet Cranky can figure out how to do it. I don't know who he is, but Cranky, you know.
Cranky.
Cranky can
Cranky and
figure out
Sparky.
anything.
They work together.
That's me in the morning.
What about that fella over there? What's his name? Corky, I believe he's called. No, not that Corky. The other Corky. Corky number 2. Too many Corkys on this mission.
There's always too many corks.
All right.
All right. Well, you are. You're loading things. It's just I need to know what one by one though. So, Dr. Hawks, you are taking your medical kit.
Yes, I
Other
am.
than your basic essentials, you're just taking your medical kit. You said, or were you taking?
Yeah, I'm
something
taking my medical bag, the one with my trauma kit, and also taking actually enough sedatives, so I have enough for each person going. So.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Lindenbrook, what are you taking other than your basics?
Well, other than just, you know, like I say, pad and paper to record things, I think I should also, if I've got a camera, I'm going to bring it. I probably do have a camera. And whatever devices I need for making measurements, I know that Elmer's going to take care of the survey end of it, but I need, you know, if we find things, you know, scientific investigation stuff. Something perhaps to collect some samples, although we can't collect much and fly back down, so.
True. Well, I mean, the other thing that was brought up by Professor Moore was if there's sufficient samples that need to return, they could be cached and returned and retrieved at a later date with an empty aircraft.
That's correct. Yeah, okay. And of course, any weapons that I have. I actually am, geez, I'm armed to the teeth. I brought a shotgun and a revolver and Lee Ensfield because I was planning on going hunting.
Weren't you the one admonishing us for bringing weapons?
I said that they probably won't be needed, but now. You know what? Honestly, to be honest, I probably left some of those back on the ship. So I probably have my revolver, is all.
Yes, I've got my trusty Webley service revolver. And a good stout hunting knife that, well, is just useful when you're mountaineering. Things need to be cut.
But I have specimen collection stuff. I probably have a little pick, because I am a paleontologist.
I'd assume I've got an ice axe as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm making some notes here so you guys can figure out how you're going to make room for all this.
I've also I've got a little petrol hand warmer.
Can these little things, can they just be in a pack on my back? Next to my oxygen?
It's about the weight as well. That's the...
Right.
Because the max is 17,000 pounds.
And if you look at the list, it's tapped out at 17,000 right now. So it will account for your regular. I mean, look, the medical bag with instruments, drugs, and supplies. That's already there.
Here's. I was looking at it, and both the Enderby and the Weddell, they're accounting for 6 crew and passengers in each plane, but we're actually going to have half that. So if you take the 1,200 pounds down, that actually is only 600 per plane if we're splitting the team into 2 planes.
Oh no, there's other people going as well.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just our team.
No, there's space for 6 people. So they've.
Okay.
I mean, it's really space for 5, but for the purposes of the game, I'm assuming 6. So 3 people on each aircraft are not you guys.
Right. So we are splitting our team up?
On the aircraft, yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
we've got 24 days worth of food.
I just want to be on the airplane that doesn't crash.
24 person days worth of food.
So does that
6 people? That's
4 days. Okay.
4 days food.
Okay.
And those who have Arctic survival or other survival skills know that can be doubled with half rations. The problem is in cold temperatures, you need to eat a lot more calories. So that's an issue.
Mm.
Unless one of you dies, in which case you can increase that number by a few.
Well,
Right.
and then we've got all that fresh meat.
That's right.
Work for the Donners.
All right, Elmer, what are you
Yes.
taking other than your basic?
Yeah,
self-enclosed?
basic stuff. If I can, I will bring my pistol, my rifle, and my boomerang.
Okay.
And I quick run up to Captain Sugden and I say, is it left over right or right over the left after the rabbit goes around the tree?
I demonstrate.
Yeah.
All right.
Do it like this. See? Like this.
You do it so quick and easy, I can't figure out. I'll get it.
Okay. Okay, so Nigel, you're not there yet because you're still flying. But what would you be bringing other than your basic self?
Basic survival gear, my Luger, and that's about it.
Okay.
Maybe a shovel.
Okay, let me look at the plan. Is there any shovel enlisted? The emphasis is that you actually come to think of it, with Nigel flying one of the aircraft, you actually have a little bit more leeway here room-wise.
Because
So
he
there's a little
doubles
bit
as
of room.
both a member of the team and as the pilot.
And the crew. Yep, that's right. Okay, Gregory, what are you taking that is...
I'm taking my Mauser pistol, my M1903 sniper rifle, as I was a mercenary during the war, my trench dagger, my Asian fighting staff, a camera, a journal, and
Your Betamax
my Betamax tape. Yeah,
Your ninja outfit and your
Bazooka.
sure
it's all
can.
fun, it's all fun and games,
Your
people.
Lucky Hello.
You just wait.
Oh, I've got this. This is listed on my character sheet as well. But
How,
I've got a Prideaux speed loader.
Nice.
Well, I just want to see a Shoggoth come around the corner.
A little thing with 6 bullets in.
Well,
And-
with the sniper rifle, I can shoot it from 2 miles away. So
I was going to say the Shoggoth comes around the corner and Bill goes, "You can't get me if you can't see me." And the cloud comes up with smoke. I'm a ninja. You disappear.
mhm.
All this fighting. Why aren't we prepared to try and make friends with them?
Should we bring some sort of peace
Haven't we
offering?
had enough war
Honestly-
in this world? Can't we just try and be men of peace?
I actually thought, given the little bit of knowledge that I think that I have, of bringing a musical instrument, but I don't think that I would do that.
Oh, God.
Well, it
You can
seems
play
like
the theme
a
from the
waste
inner light.
not to bring one of the harmonicas with us.
That might be our salvation. You never know.
Music hath charms to soothe the savage beast.
According to the manuscript, if you've been reading it, these things communicate via a piping sort of musical sound. So at least they would know that we were intelligent. I think they think that we're cattle.
Sort of alien jazz
I
flautist.
think you're like trilobites.
Yeah. Of their invention.
As I'm packing my bag, I see a pair of binoculars sitting on the table, so I grab those two.
Okay. Excellent.
Oh yes, I've definitely got binoculars. Got to
Okay.
scope out the surroundings as we go up.
Well, looking at what you're proposing, it seems that you have, because I estimated pretty quickly, you have about 300 pounds, 280 pounds of additional gear you're bringing. So that works out to about 140 pounds per ship, or per aircraft. Now, if you want to bring some oxygen tanks, there are 20 of them weigh 400 pounds. So 20 pounds each, I guess that would make it. So therein lies the issue, is that you're although I said 200, you only need to find 80 pounds. So
Can we get rid of the life rafts and the life vests?
are they there?
I don't know.
There can't be.
Probably not on airplanes right now.
Well, you only need
About
like
the,
a couple
the
sleeping
drinks trolley.
bags.
Drinks trolley. Can we toss the waitress?
The stewardess. Phew,
The stewardess.
she can stay at the camp.
Chemical toilet.
Is it just
Well, like
me,
only-
or does the seem like an excess amount of aviation gasoline? How far are we going?
Are
It's that
we
you're
looking
going
at
up.
something?
Yeah,
The manifest.
It's on the. It's on
it's in the
start-
group. It's on the
group.
Starkweather Moore group.
Oh, sorry. I must not have heard you say anything.
Our secret group.
That we've just told everyone about.
Damn it!
Because it says that it has 1,890 miles range. I agree with Elmer. How far are we going?
Well, I have a map.
Is
I
it to
can't
scale?
show it.
You have to keep in mind, though, once we get there, there's no guarantee we can land right on the site. We may have to land miles away. We don't know.
Yeah.
That is part of the problem. That the distance you are traveling to get to the top of the mountains is fairly significant. It is 1, 2, 3. It's about 1/4 of the distance. No, not quite. But it's probably 1/5 to 1/6 of the distance you flew from the base camp. 'Cause you're even though you're in the foothills,
Mhm.
you've still got a long distance to go to get over the mountains.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression I was only like 10 miles away.
No, it seems that way. That's the problem. The distance, it's deceiving because the foothills are right there, but they slope upwards and upwards and upwards. This is a huge mountain range.
So basically, we need all that fuel.
You need the fuel, yes.
Plus, we're going up how high? 40,000 feet?
Quite high, yes.
That alone is how many miles? Let's do the
5,280 feet per mile.
4,000 divided by
7 something.
yeah, 7.5 miles up.
So I see that we have a chemistry sampling and test equipment in a canvas bag.
Mhm.
Is anyone a chemist? Does that sound
Corey.
like something we would need on this first trip? We've got cartography
No,
and geology instruments. Is that duplicating what Professor Lindenbrook is taking or what Elmer is
Well-
taking?
It is somewhat, yes. When you look at it, there are a number of things you can get rid of.
Because that's 50 pounds right there if we got rid of those two. We have
Um,
meteorology instruments.
You do
Find
need
out
that.
what the weather is. Yeah. The chemistry stuff we probably don't need because we can take small samples and bring them back with us.
Right. We don't need to do sampling on site.
Or testing of the sampling also, yeah.
Right.
Um,
And cartography and geology, I would think that Elmer would have that and Professor Lindenbrook, and that's 40 pounds.
well, isn't that the equipment that his equipment? Or
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, is it? Okay.
There's a still camera, just offhand throwing it out there, that there's a still camera set. So Dr. Lindenbrook doesn't have to bring his camera.
okay.
That's
Okay, so I don't have to bring my camera either. Then we'll just share that camera because we'll probably be taking pictures of the same dang things.
Right.
We don't need to duplicate that effort.
Well, let's just say that with those things you mentioned, plus the fact that you have one person working as crew and passenger with Nigel, you do find the space for the extra equipment you're bringing. However, you aren't able to bring any extra oxygen tanks.
Everybody pee before we go.
Yeah. Good
Hey,
point.
we could take certain things like the packs and juggle them, toss them up in the air.
It's like jumping up in an elevator, right?
Ah,
We could
That'll work.
hang on straps from the ceiling so that we're not actually putting any weight on the floor.
All right, so
Stand
you've
on
managed
our
to
toes.
find enough. You're good. You do not have a space for additional oxygen.
Okay.
Okay. Well, word comes in from the Weddle at 5 p.m. from Nigel that Starkweather's aboard his ship and they're on their way back. They expect to arrive at 11 p.m. Dinner is tense, electric, constant excitement back and forth between all the different persons in the mess tent. Supplies are packed, chosen crews are ready. Everyone's essentially just waiting now. You get a round of toasts. There's some alcohol that slipped in people's packs, comes out. You're told by Professor Moore that smoke them if you got them and you want to have them, because once you're on the aircraft, there's no smoking because it's pure oxygen. It's bad for everyone's health.
Smoke anyway.
Acacia's playing the bell is on the runway, fueled, packed, ready to go. Bauman and Rooker, Meyer's chosen companions, are actually sleeping on the plane. Keep an eye on it. Meyer is in the camp, and same with Acacia and her pilot, Williams. And Albert Priestley stands watch over the waiting aircraft. And they advise everyone to get some sleep.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I assume you all do.
Go straight to bed. Yeah.
Okay. Now it's December 4th. Shortly before midnight, I mean, it's actually just the end of the 3rd. At midnight, Nigel flies in, circles in low from the east, lands shortly before midnight, but before he unloads. 3 men and a full sled team get unloaded. Professor Moore rushes out to greet Starkweather. He's in a really foul mood. His kit bag is left in a plane, and he just says quietly, though you hear him because you're nearby, "My pistol's in the bag. Leave it there." So he says, unload the aircraft, and then start reloading. And he wants a conference with everyone. So everyone wake up. He wants you all in the tent.
Okay.
So drag you all out. 15 minutes after landing, everyone who's going to be on the expedition is gathered near one of the planes in a tent. Starkweather climbs up on a wing. You're standing in the tent, but the tent is open facing the aircraft. He's opened the flaps to try to keep you out of the wind a bit. And Professor Moore's down below with his hands in his pockets. Some people go, "What's up, Captain?" And somebody says, "Who called us out of this godforsaken time?" And he laughs a little bit. He says, "Sorry about the beastly hour, lads, but it's time for the big push. Lexington and the Huns have sprung one on us, and they're joined up to beat us over the pass. There's no end of trouble with them. I'm sure you fellows realize what we have to do, and we will do everything we can. We need every man to help out. Our pilots tell me we can make it over the far side, spend a couple of days prowling around on the ground. Of course, only 4 of you besides myself, the professor, and the pilots come on the first trip, but I know you're very keen for the job. So put your names in with the professor," which you've already done. He isn't aware of that yet. "And we can send you back a plane, bring some more of you along later, perhaps. With a bit of luck, we can make sure these boys and the little lady are watching our tail from the windscreen, eh? So much for your efficiency. And let's jolly well make sure they don't pinch our stuff. I wouldn't put it past them. If they ask for our help, tell them to go to blazes. They prove what sorts they are. You scientist fellows, you should put together a small kit for each trip if you haven't already. It's going to be a bit tight. Be a grand adventure once we're there, and that's why we all came here. So I'm asking the doctor to pass around a tot, and then the mechanics should get to work. The rest of you will need some sleep. I want to take off by 8 o'clock in the morning. And I know you won't let our side down, gentlemen. Dismiss." So everyone wanders off. He talks to a couple senior people. People make suggestions. And he just, "Thank you." He says, "I haven't slept in 20 hours. I need some sleep. So he heads off to a vacant tent. And Professor Moore, looking kind of down, everyone start loading the aircraft. And you guys need to get some more sleep, he says.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Nigel, you flew, so you can sleep too, but he says the other pilots will be working on loading things, and they should have things ready for 6. They'll wake you up at that time.
All right, I'll be ready.
All right. Morning ride happens. Lexington and the BFE members. You wake up, and one of you wakes up a little early and looks out, and you can see they're still sitting by their aircraft at 4 in the morning. They got a lantern lit. You do hear some noises after a little while. And about 7 in the morning, Starkweather comes out and rouses everybody up to get up. The wind's picked up to about 50 miles an hour. It's a little windy, but not unmanageable. And everyone's moving slowly still because it's windy, which is making things colder. People are getting some minor signs of frostbite that Dr. Hawks has to deal with. And for the first time since you've arrived, work at the dig site and the mine, totally nothing's happening over there. 8 a.m., however, it seems some of the oxygen in the tanks and the Weddell smells of glycerin. Halpern and DeWitt, the senior pilots, say we got to check everything. We got to check all the tanks. So they said we need some help. We've got to unload everything to be able to unload the tanks and then load it back up again.
Did we have somebody watching our planes while we were sleeping?
Mm-hmm.
To kind of prevent sabotage? Well,
this is the same situation with the tanks that was noticed by the ones you lent or you gave to Lexington.
Got it.
It's welding gas. That's the problem. It's welding oxygen. So they start unloading, and by about 9:20 in the morning, you hear a radio call come in. Lexington's received her notice. She rushes out. She and Kyle Wimmons start heating up the engines for flight of her aircraft, the Bell. Clenching and unclenching his fist, he's really ticked off by this. As the oxygen tanks are over here being tested, and over there she's warming up the aircraft. And soon there's a stuttering roar, and the engine of the Lexington's stealth aircraft starts up. He stares at it and shouts, "All right, lads, never mind. I'm sure it doesn't matter. Nasty odor never killed a man. Just get these planes loaded. She hasn't beaten us yet." So everyone starts loading the oxygen tanks back in bucket brigade style as her aircraft, its beautiful silver Bell, the Bell, a Delta aircraft, takes off. At 10 a.m. it's gone, and he orders the engines heated, even as the gas cylinders are reloaded. So by the time mechanics have finished blowtorching the engines, warm up to start, 20 minutes have passed. You guys board your heaviest clothing. Crew start the engine, and unless somebody has an issue, 10:20 you take off. All right.
Nigel, did you plant that small explosive device in her airplane like we told you to? Set for 29,000 feet. No.
So the mountains, I mean, as you're flying, the mountains are looming. They're huge, they're massive, and it seems to take forever to get close to them. Everyone's leaning against glass, wondering, what's beyond the mountains. So the aircraft climbs steadily. It takes an hour just climbing towards the pass at a reasonable glide. You gradually reach the altitude needed to reach the gap, which is the space between the mountains. They're calling it the Dyer Gap. That's what they've chosen to call it. The airplane floors tilt steeper and steeper as the heavy vehicles, the air is thinner. They're having a little bit of trouble. And Professor Moore is excited, like all of you at first, and he tries to talk to you to give you some kind of a speech he's got prepared, but you can't even hear him over the pounding, the roar of the engines and the rattling of things. So he goes, "Meh," and he settles back down his chair. He's got his copy of the dire text document. He's reading through it. Those of you in the aircraft with the Etterby, Starkweather's excited too. He's constantly looking through the window and shouting comments at whoever's sitting near him. Dr. Green's gone to sleep. Only the pilots seem to speak easily. They seem to understand each other. Nigel as well. You all seem to be able to talk to one another, no problem. That's it. Nobody can understand a thing the pilots are saying, mind you. Halpern tries to call the bell on the radio, but there's no answer. This is something that he's noticed and says out loud, that he can't seem to get the bell on the radio. No verification that everything's okay.
What are we seeing outside the windows other than snow and rock and ice?
Well, you're left and right. You're seeing the plains, the Antarctic plains, I guess you would call them, and below you is more and more rock as you get closer and closer to the mountains themselves. You're rising up to the very pointed, very sharp peaks of the mountains. You're just like 20 minutes into the flight, you're 16,000 feet up, and there's powerful winds rushing up from the pole towards the mountains. So the engines roar and race. The planes shudder and jerk violently, kind of having a bit of difficulty for a while. You can hear a lot of swearing from the pilots. It's essentially turbulence, but you're looking at these beautiful, giant, wonderful, pointed, jagged mountains covered in ice and snow. But everybody has to make a dexterity roll, please.
Oh yeah, made it.
Yes.
I rolled a 7, so I'm very dexterous for an old man.
I rolled a 4.
A 4.
I got a 10. We're all doing really well.
Best roll ever.
I got a 41.
What was your dex? Was that a pass?
50. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
By 9 points.
You're used to the bumpiness that you've had so far flying an aircraft, so you know enough to buckle in. But it's very bumpy. But within minutes, you're up in the air current, the racing air current. Ground speed increases. Nigel, you notice you're going 250 miles an hour now. But the pilot and passengers don't notice the difference, but you certainly do.
Yay.
Mountains change. You're nearing an alarming rate now as you get closer. Now all of a sudden you can see you're getting closer. Minute by minute, they're getting larger and darker. As you get closer to the high peaks, the static increases over your radios. It's like you've never experienced anything like this, Nigel, before. You just hear this crackling, not just static, but electrical crackling. It's the strangest thing. You can communicate with the lake camp at first, but then nothing. I mean, signals even from the other plane, you can see them. They're a mile away. You can't hear them over the sea of noise that's going over your earphones.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the static electricity at this altitude is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. Soon you're at 18,000 feet. All persons on board, Professor Moore and Starkweather point to your oxygen tank, so you have to hook up your oxygen. Okay, so once you're all hooked up, you have to clamp your noses shut and bite these rubbery pipe stems. The hissing gas, I mean, it's gross. It's acrid, it's cold, it's dry, it has a faint smell of paint and glue. And as soon as he turns it on, it's like this. I mean, it seems to get better over time. But could everybody make a Constitution roll?
Pass.
Yes.
I
barely made mine.
I didn't pass.
I made it by a little bit.
Nope.
Dr. Lindbook's going to be tossing chunk.
Uh-oh. Let's see, which do you experience? Make it sound like there's 27 choices. You feel gross, nauseous. You feel like you're almost about to pass out just from the
smell.
Like being in a room that's been recently painted and the door's shut. It does pass over time, but you're not able to focus on what's outside the window right now or have a conversation. You try to you involuntarily try to take it out of your mouth, and Dr. Hawks puts his hand back and says, no, you can't. And pushes it back in your mouth. You have to drink. You involuntarily try to do this.
I'm just kind of feeling a little weird. So
I hate the idea of trying to breathe out of something the size of a pen. Like, it's just possible. So you're now approaching the pass. The foothills between the camp and the pass they're rough peaks, stark blades and angles of rock thrusting outwards into sheets of ice. Anywhere else, they'd be recognized for what they are, but here they look like nothing compared to the stone wall that is the central range that you haven't quite gone over yet. And eyes of everyone is drawn to the spires rather. Just these are so pointed, it just doesn't seem sensible, even to Captain Sugden in your years of mountain climbing. Usually mountains like this are worn down by now, but just for whatever reason, because of the environment here, there's not enough something happening to cause them to wear down. They just seem to get sharper over time. That is what you're thinking, that they're so old. How can they be this sharp? These pointy. The aircraft has a lot of trouble because the air is very light, very thin. But the high peaks continue upward you go. The funny thing is the sky. Now you all notice it's a funny color. It's pink and white. And there's areas of brightness that seem to like move and twist, kind of like any of you who may have seen the Northern Lights. It's similar to that, but not quite. And the mountains are dark stone. Anybody with a geology background is very interested. They're dark grays and blacks and light lines. And when you get up to the upper reaches, 21,000 feet, you notice blocks, angled things. And could everyone do a spot hidden, please?
Yes, pass.
Ooh, pass.
Oh, yes.
I actually got a hard.
Oh, good.
I think I did too.
And
I'm busy looking out the window at something else.
Pass.
Yes, I got a hard
who has binoculars?
I do.
Who has the binoculars? You do?
I think I have a set.
Okay.
I also
Those of you
have
who
15.
passed, you say it out loud, I'm sure. You will look. It looks like caves, cave mouths.
Almost like doors, because the crystalline structure of everything is so square.
Mm-hmm. And as you approach, there's no snow. I mean, as you approach this area, near the pass, these high spires, it's just rock. And there's cave openings. And so the binoculars will show you that they're absolutely... the details are very... It's like there's little speckles, similar to the pattern that was on those stars around the doorways, the cave openings.
We have found New Swabia.
Moria. Did we bring a geologist with us? Probably not. We left him behind.
Probably not. Okay. Well, I'm sure you make note.
Yeah.
Of what you see.
Sean, could you repeat that last part? You said you were kind of breaking up. You said there's like stars?
No, I'm sorry. You know the speckly pattern that's on those stars you found?
Patterns of dots.
The patterns of dots? When you use the binoculars, you can see that pattern of dots around the doorways and stuff.
Sure, it's just a coincidence, right?
It's probably just weathering.
Supremely precise weathering.
That's why they're so pointy, all the weather. So as you go a little farther,
Swamp gas.
the barren stretches near the pass, the ancient surfaces, give way to more artificial looking things, round-edged, weathered clusters of stony cubes, eerily regular in size, shape, and that. They're everywhere in the higher levels. Glistening quartzite, shiny white rock, pale. They shine brightly against the darker rock. Like, how did they get made, let alone be put up there? Stones, spires, cones, cylinders, ramps. Looks like ramps built into the rock. Ramparts. At first it looks like just funny odd shapes, and they look more manufactured as you continue on.
I can see why they thought there was a city up here. I mean, look at those strange. It almost looks like you could climb up that with just by going up the ramp.
Well, Captain Sugden, you remember that there's a place called Giant's Causeway in Ireland that you've seen photographs of. That
yes.
It has similar rock patterns, but that's obviously natural. These look somewhat different. Similar but different. These extrusions, they extend along the higher expansions of the range. Does anybody have a geology?
I have a little geology.
I have a
If you
little
want to make a roll
geology.
on that. If anybody has that, please make a roll.
Oh, 15. I got it.
Yeah, so did I. I've got 21, and I rolled 21. So
I have 24.
I'm at the limit of my understanding.
Well, what you both recognize immediately is this kind of rock formation, like the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, these kind of strange cubic rocks. Generally, this only occurs in places with known volcanism having happened,
Right.
but there's no trace of volcanism in these mountains.
And never on this scale either.
Wasn't this some form of basalt? This was supposed to be.
Yep.
Would basalt have survived this long? I mean, it should have been all worn away by now.
Well, given the wind action, you think that is probably the case. It should have been.
Even granite would be worn away, at least in part. I think that this is going to be fascinating. Maybe we've discovered a new compound, a new, what do you call it? An aggregate that's stronger than granite.
Harder.
Harder.
Well, the last few miles before the pass, I mean, the aircraft you're continuing, you feel like you're in toys compared to the size of these immense walls and spires. The aircraft stagger along 5 miles above the sea. The high peaks to either side just scraping the sky above you as you go through the pass. The base of the pass is broad and flat and a good mile across. So it seemed like a needle's eye you had to pass through, but it's a mile wide. Captain Sugden, could you make a? I guess you don't have to really make a spot hidden. You were already looking for this. As you approach, you can see that it is entirely possible to have traveled this without aircraft, given the right amount of oxygen and the right equipment. So you've got the information based on your knowledge.
Right. Okay. And I would assume that if the contents of that manuscript are to be believed, then those things are supposed to have made their way up there as well somehow.
Unless they found an entrance somewhere else. But, well, no. Yeah, I'm sorry, you said according to the manuscript. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, as you're proceeding along, Starkweather and Moore, they have their own binoculars as well. They're shocked. They're taking notes left and right. They're very excited. However, whichever ship you're in, aircraft rather, they do try to explain to whoever doesn't have binoculars what they're seeing. You can see the cave mouths are smooth and regular as you get closer and closer to them. Now that they're a little closer to the side of the aircraft. The upper surfaces are very smooth. The lower lips are frequently round and misshapen from the sun and wind, but smooth at top. The sides of the mountain around the cave mouths are smooth and clean between the caves, and the surrounding clusters of these strange cube things in contrast. On the surface of them, unfamiliar irregularity of unworked natural stone surrounding these perfectly cut cubes. The number of caves increases drastically above the level of the pass, and in the higher levels, these mouths are grouped. Cave mouths are grouped closer and closer together. So it's riddled with them. You do think that there must be like a honeycomb of passageways connecting these caves in the mountains. So as you proceed, absolutely you could have made a return back, as noted. Glaciers lead right up to the paths, broad and flat. So you would travel over relatively smooth ground most of the way down, except for places where the glaciers have dropped off.
Let's see.
It's very interesting. It's absolutely you could see this. So
I'll make a few notes as well. While I'm surveying this, because I want to, in technical terminology that I don't know because I'm not a real mountaineer, but Captain Sugden does because he is.
Yes. Now the aircraft are
role playing that was, wasn't it?
Well, the aircraft now pass through the smooth glacier paths. You've gone through the eye of the needle, so to speak. There have been no issues right now, or up to this point, with the engine. The aircraft are working perfectly fine. You're 23,880 feet up. Radios are useless. There's that wild, scratchy noise on them. Rock face has now become utterly bare, stripped clean of all snow and ice. Faint veils of color around the spires and that. But could everyone make a listen roll, please?
Listen.
Made it.
Nope.
I got exactly half of what I needed.
Nope. Missed by 8.
Okay.
6 I passed.
Okay. Jeff? Elmer?
I did not make mine.
I missed it by 1.
Missed it by 1. Well, you sense that something's going on, but you can't really place it. Those who succeeded, over top of the sound of the engines and the roaring, and even over top of the static in the earphones, did you pass, Nigel?
Yes, I passed.
Okay. Even over the static in your earphones, which is driving you crazy, you hear a new sound. It's a high piping whistling. It's just faint enough to be barely audible over the engine's roar. And it seems to be coming from all directions. It just irritates you at a nervous level. You sense the sound. It's as you listen to it, it almost sounds like there's a tune to it. It's not just a constant noise. It seems to go up, spiral away, come back, up and down, pitch and tone, back and forth. So it almost sounds like you'd swear it's music.
I'm going to plug my ears and see if that affects it.
No, it's still there, oddly enough.
Even with my ears plugged.
Well, could everyone who had a successful hearing, could they make a power roll, please?
Yeah. I got 3.
Ooh. Made it by 1.
I was kind of hoping I would lose that power.
32 I failed.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Jeff says no? Jerry?
No, I failed my
passed. I passed.
Okay. Anyone who heard the noise but failed the roll, you are filled with a deep, inexplicable sense of dread and revulsion. Something is just wrong. It's like a primal, instant concern and fear in the back of your brain. It's like you know this is a sound you should not be hearing. And sorry, Dr. Lindenbrook, when you cover your ears, I'm wrong. You do actually, it lingers, it's just quieter. So you actually can almost drown it out, but you can't completely.
Okay.
I was checking
to see if it was in my head. you know.
Oh, I see. Well, it passes through your hands, but you did hear it, so you still had to make the roll. So anyone who failed and has this deep, inexplicable sense of dread must take a sanity check, please.
How'd you, Greg?
No, I failed my listen roll. I didn't hear a thing.
Well, now you have to do a sanity roll.
Oh, do I?
sorry.
Even though I don't hear anything?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're right. You're fine. Sorry. It's whoever heard
Whoever
it
made
and
the
then failed
listen
power
roll but failed the power
Right,
roll.
right.
So I
It was
failed
a-
my listen
okay.
roll, so I did not make a power
Yes.
roll.
It
I'm
was
oblivious.
only Roger Hawks that failed it.
Yeah, y'all
All
are
right.
the ones freaking out.
But
So do a sanity check, Dr. Hawks.
but I am thinking about the manuscript talking about the strange piping noise that these things made.
26 out of 56.
All right. So you take 0. You're fine, but you still feel the sense of dread. Now, the one thing is, though, do you have a mythos? Anything in mythos, Dr. Lindenbrook?
Actually, I guess I don't.
Yeah, everybody
I have
starts with
a-
0 mythos anyway.
I have a
Oh,
fairly.
no, if you read
Oh.
the Necronomicon, he's got to have that percentage at least.
You tell me. I mean, now that I guess I could have read the Necronomicon and just thought that it was a book. But now that things,
Necronomicon slot
I
now that
5,
things are starting to
Right.
come true.
8%.
Yeah, I would say where you work and what you do, you've read it.
No, I did read it, but I didn't believe anything in it. Now I'm
Oh, I
starting
see.
to believe it.
But it's not whether you believe it, it's whether you've read it. So it's the knowledge of it, not necessarily believing it, I would think.
Well, I didn't think that it was knowledge. I just thought
Ah,
that it was make
a book.
believe.
Best
Right.
novel
Now
ever.
I think that it's true.
Well, do you still want to make a roll? You can make a
Okay.
roll against.
What percentage would you give me on Cthulhu for having read it?
I believe it's 8.
I think it's 8 as well.
Okay, 8%. 46. So
It seems to. It's something there, but you're not entirely sure. You just
And-
you recollect something, but you're not. Getting
Even
it.
though you may not believe it, it's a whether if you've heard the story before.
That's right, because you're making a connection between something you've read, you've experienced, and something you've read. So
that's
All right.
actually my point, that I wouldn't suffer until I make the connection. But
true,
anyways.
true. Okay.
If you counted that as occult knowledge, I passed occult knowledge. So, but anyways, go ahead.
Yeah,
it's
I've got occult out the wazoo, so
Yeah, so do I.
But- I'm still working on the manuscript.
okay. The aircraft make it through the pass. Pilots, Nigel, could you make a navigate roll, please?
Navigate? All right, let's see. What is it?
Or pilot, some kind of piloty skill.
Either way, I made it. Either one.
Oh, yes. Okay. You realize, and as the experienced pilot, you announce to the other pilots as well. You tried. The radio's not going to work, but you say it. Returning this way right now is going to be impossible with the aircraft, with the gale that's blowing right now, because you've got a gale blowing up from the coast across the pole through this pass, blowing you across and through. It's actually assisting you right now. And if that wind's still blowing, there's no way with the aircraft you have you can fly back the way you came.
So it's a tailwind.
You have a very strong tailwind right now.
Which is great for getting there, but like you said, pushing against it.
Yeah, you used less fuel than you expected to get there, and you got there faster.
Mm-hmm.
But heading back the other way is not going to be an easy feat right now. And just as you announce this, and you tell Professor Moore this, or Starkweather, whichever aircraft you're in, there's a blinding flash of light behind and 60 degrees to the right of the aircraft. I don't know why they specify 60 degrees. Everyone's dazzled by the light. And there's twin halos around the sun, and there's like this cross of light in the sky, and little pinpricks of light in the sky, just dazzling lights. And then they just, poof, they're gone.
Like a sundog?
It's like sundogs, but multiple sundogs across the sky. Just it's almost like fireworks went off from the sun reflecting off of whatever or passing through whatever. And Starkweather and Moore, seemingly totally unaffected by the sounds or the lights, they're leaning forward, looking past the pilots, and with a sudden shout, Starkweather turns and points in his plane to load the motion picture camera. So he wants the camera loaded. So, and nobody's seen the bell yet. This is another thing to know. The bell has not been seen. And everyone's looking forward, and the sun is actually blocked up by a great mass of mountains to the starboard. And magnetic compass, the compasses and the gyroscopes are just going, spinning around like crazy. And you're through. And when you get through the pass, 2 aircraft burst through the strange swirling cloud at 11:23 a.m. and then angle down towards the plateau beyond. And there's a haze of ice particles on the horizon ahead, shadows reaching out from the mountains across the land, and you can see your shadows through the clouds of airborne ice particles, dark tunnels through. And behind the aircraft, there's like solar halos and rainbows and such. As you peer into the distance and begins to descend, there's a whisper of something passes through your aircraft. It's like electricity tingling all the hair on your body and the backs of your necks. And those who have heard the sound, it reminds you of that sound you heard, except it's physical this time. And for a moment, the engines throb and strain and the aircraft shudders. And seconds later, it's gone. And you can see ahead of you an immense ice-shrouded city spread out before you. It's a city. It is not mountains. It is not rocks. It is actually a constructed city. It's massive, incredibly ancient, undeniably real. Towers that have fallen down over time, labyrinthine streets extending everywhere. It's a maze of squared, curved, angled blocks, ramparts, everything. It's a city.
Is it buried in the ice, or is it unburied?
No, unburied.
Holy crap!
There is a frozen sheet that passes over parts of it, but no, there are parts of the city. Most of the city is. Is
this going to take a sanity roll?
Right there. Yep. It's everybody make a sanity roll, please.
It's true. It's true.
Didn't make it.
Whew. I made it by 1.
I did not make it.
Oh, I didn't make it either.
I didn't make it either.
Everybody that didn't make it takes 1.
We all took the red mist.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Pull out your cards. Someone goes crazy in the aircraft. Starkweather's screaming out, "Look at the size of it. No wonder the Germans were in such a hurry." It goes on for miles. It's like
where are we going to land?
Well, that's next, and I think because of that, and because of the time, we should probably call it there.
Now that we're through the pass, though, can we see the bell?
No, you cannot see the bell anywhere, and you're high enough you can see quite a ways.
That gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Sounds cool. Okay, so our players included Jerry Bryant, Greg Malcolm, Bill Mize, Mick Swan, Jeff Wilkins, and myself with Sean Little as Keeper of the Secrets. Our musical intro, Sleight of Hand, was composed by James Brett and is used with his permission. We're currently producing 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. Patrons of our show can now enjoy recordings of our pre- and post-game conversations. Some of the funniest and most interesting stuff occurs before and after the show. If you'd like to become a patron, visit our Patreon account. Just $1 or $2 a month will help us a lot. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We love hearing from you. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all of the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.